to talk to you all about the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's currently an act. It is a sweeping piece of legislation that has already passed the House and now it's headed to the Senate. And so while, most of the public conversations really center around Medicaid and changes to some of the tax cuts and how much more tax cuts can we get, I think there's something far more insidious happening beneath the surface. And it's really a quiet dismantling of environmental safeguards and regulatory power, kind of all in the name of rapid AI expansion and what I believe is corporate convenience. So behind this, patriotic branding and promises of progress, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it conceals, I think, a quiet but dangerous bargain. And this is just one example. My brain only had the energy to focus on one example related to the environment. But in this particular example, there is evidence that we will be sacrificing our water oversight and ultimately the public's well-being in exchange for some unchecked AI expansion and corporate gain. The One Big Beautiful Bill, it was recently passed, it's an act right now, it was recently passed by the House, and it presents itself as this forward-thinking, innovation-driven legislative package. But beneath the surface, I think it really reveals some deeply troubling priorities favoring corporate interests, gutting environmental protections, and setting the stage for long-term public harm. And so here's how, and I'm going to do my best, right? There's going to be massive cuts really to clean water funding. There's a bill, it proposes $1.5 billion of cuts to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, leaving about 150 million or so. And then a nearly $1 billion cut to the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Leaving about, 150 million. And we can argue that these billion-dollar amounts in the first place, maybe that was too much, but a suggestion of cutting it down to a tenth is quite, it will have some impact. It simultaneously shifts the responsibility of the states, right? Encouraging them to fund their own water infrastructure and projects. We've seen in Flint, Michigan, they've got federal support and their water still has lead in it, despite many lacking the resources to actually do so. So this, I believe, severely undermines national efforts to maintain clean and safe water for the public. Um, and at the same time, this bill supports AI expansion with like no oversight. It enforces there in there a 10-year federal preemption on any state level regulation of AI. So that basically includes the rules about handling data, our performance, how whatever performance looks like, any liabilities or any additional fees that might be incurred. However, it does allocate money to modernize the federal infrastructure with AI, with a commercial AI system, and more than $1 billion to use at the US border. And so the states in this particular bill are actually encouraged to support it. There's an exemption that said you could support more AI deployment, but certainly not regulate it. And so the federal government is simultaneously removing both environmental oversight and technology accountability at the same time in this particular bill. And so AI is we're overlooking what I believe is some environmental impact tied to it, right? There's the emerging evidence that basically shows the AI infrastructure requires massive amounts of water, fresh water, particularly for the cooling. Apparently, there are these cooling servers in the data centers that need the water. And so large AI data centers can use millions of gallons of water per day. Let me repeat that millions of gallons of water per day. Though some of the water is recycled, much of it is actually lost through evaporation. And so as AI demand grows, so does its water footprint. And so eventually we are now competing with human communities for one of our most vital natural resources. Now, are you talking in theory? Let me show you how these real world consequences are already unfolding. One example is in Memphis, Tennessee, a historically Black and under-resourced neighborhood where Elon Musk's company, XAI, has taken over an old factory to build, and I got this from a headline here, the most powerful AI training system in the world. And so reports and footage already show that the facility is emitting plumes of pollution in the air. And it runs on gas-powered turbines and is expected to consume massive amounts of water. And meanwhile, the local community sees no benefits. The people are already starting to complain, and it's just environmental risk. And so, the inescapable conclusion is really that the federal government is defunding water protections. We're blocking states from regulating AI. We're encouraging rapid AI expansion and ignoring the environmental consequences, particularly in marginalized communities. So, what does this mean for the rest of us, right? It means that as AI becomes more powerful, access to clean water, something that should be a basic human right. It feels like an inalienable right. I don't know. Do we have the right to water that was on this earth well before any of us got here? I'm not sure. But access to clean water will be increasingly commodified, disproportionately affecting vulnerable communities first. We're heading toward a future where water, once free and fundamental, will become a privatized resource in service of unchecked technological growth. And so that's not innovation, friends. It's exploitation, and it's happening in plain sight.